الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور انفسنا ومن سيئات اعمالنا من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له واشهد ان لا اله الا الله وحده لا شريك له واشهد ان نبينا محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى اله وصحبه اجمعين. اما بعد. السلام عليكم ورحمه الله وبركاته. Brothers and sisters, as always, we will keep it brief. Today's halaqah will be revisiting the khutbah that was given here at the masjid just yesterday. And obviously, on everyone's mind are those horrific events that happened, the brutal killing, murdering of innocent lives whilst they were praying inside a masjid. And the really tragic thing, on top of innocent lives being taken, is the fact that this isn't the first time. And for many Muslims, it feels like it's becoming a trend. And the problem with it happening over and over again is it desensitizes things for many people. You will see the first time something happens, there is a big outpour of support and concern. And once something becomes familiar, then people, they move on. And if you remember in the khutbah, I made that comparison, even though it is a very bad comparison, about the school shootings in America. When it first started happening a decade ago or so, perhaps 2 decades now, people were shocked and they couldn't believe it. School children taking up weapons and killing each other at school. But then now it's just become almost like a routine. Whenever people hear about it, they send their thoughts and prayers and they move on. And a few months later, other children are killed. And this, as a Muslim, we are grieved whenever an innocent life is taken. And following in the footsteps of the Prophet ﷺ, we need to understand that a Muslim is the one who is proactive, not reactive. We've mentioned this before, but it feels like we haven't really implemented it. Most human beings, when something happens, that is when they wake up, right? Even in the Quran, we're told about people who only on Yawm al-Qiyamah wake up, right? And that is when they start saying how much they regret. Ya laytani kuntu turaba. But a Muslim is the one that prepares for what is coming before it comes. Allah Azza wa Jalla says, Ya ayyuha alladhina amanu taqullaha wa tanzur nafsum ma qaddamat lighad. That we are a people who prepare for tomorrow before tomorrow arrives. So that when tomorrow arrives, we know what to do. This is true in terms of our faith, it is true in terms of our actions, it's true in the setting of a society. And you only have to reflect and think about the way that this masjid functions. Do we as a community have a plan? Do we know what to do? Or are we basically just sitting ducks? And when we address these issues, it is never to cause fear, irrational fear, or to make people paranoid, but you have to be at least prepared for the unexpected. as much as you can. And that doesn't mean that you think that the worst is going to happen, but in case the worst happens, you are ready as a community. And the sad thing is, when you start speaking like that, then what ends up happening is people start pointing fingers at each other. Well, it's the responsibility of the imam, it's the responsibility of the board, it's the responsibility of the volunteers, and so on. But that doesn't get us anywhere. Unless you're able to come with a solution and be part of the solution, then you're really part of the problem. You're not adding anything of value. If you do not see that things are going in the right direction, or if you do not see that things are improving, then you need to be the person who steps up and say, okay, I will do my part. I'll do what I can. And we've given the example before of two different individuals. They walk into a room, right? And all of a sudden the lights go out in the room. The first person, when he walks into the room, he starts cursing the darkness. And he gets angry and he says, who is responsible for this? The electricity bill hasn't been paid, and this, that, and the other, and they start complaining and pointing fingers. But they don't do anything about the situation. Whereas the other person, he enters the exact same room, and as soon as he notices that the light is out, he looks for a way to turn it on, to light a candle, to be productive. And this is what we need to be as a community. You hear what has happened now in New Zealand. And Allah Azza wa Jal knows best, and we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to protect all innocent lives, wherever they might be. Ameen. But at the same time, we are not naive. When this type of hate speech is being spewed through media, left, right, and center, not just against Muslims, against people of the Jewish faith, against immigrants. It is not shocking when you see people taking it a step further and starting to do these evil acts. So, as a community, we might, alhamdulillah, whenever something like this happens, alhamdulillah ala kulli hal, you see the tremendous outpour of support. You see people, as soon as it happened, when the news first broke, Thursday night for us, the police chief sent me a text message checking in on the community. The mayor called the same night, asking about how the community was. And these things are very important, because if you are an isolated community, first of all, if you're a minority, and you remain isolated from the wider community, you will have a very harsh awakening, a very harsh wake-up call. And often by that time, it is too late. But alhamdulillah, through the blessings, the many blessings of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, we live in a place like Victoria, with people who have good hearts, good minds, people who are caring of others. But we shouldn't take it for granted. We need to have a plan in motion of how to go about if the worst case scenario does happen. And more importantly, we need to have that proactive response, that we don't only connect with people once calamity, something bad happens, but if people know us beforehand, when something bad happens, they will remember, oh, I remember the masjid. My co-worker is a Muslim. Let me check in. Let me pay my condolences, show my respect. But these type of things, they take time. They take time and effort. It's not something that happens overnight. And when you don't see the fruits of your effort and labor there and then, it is easy to think that it's wasted time. Why do I have to connect with different churches? Why do I have to sit with the mayor? Why do I have to keep in contact with the police chief? You don't see the benefit there. But once something bad happens, that is when things become clear. And like they say, your friends, you only know who your true friends are once you go through hardship. There's a lot of people that when things are good, they'll smile at you, they'll give you a good face, but as soon as it gets difficult, you lose your job, something bad happens, you get into an accident. Who visits you at the hospital? Not many people. Only the people that were close to you. Only people who really cared to begin with. So, having all of this in mind, and you know better than myself the history of the masjid here. The masjid, alhamdulillah, has been a part of this community for a very long time, even before this structure was built. But we don't live in the same world that we lived in 10 years ago. And 10 years from now, the world will be different. And this Islamophobia that we keep hearing about, which is a reality, and it keeps increasing. And we need to find that balance between not caving into fear and letting fear paralyze us, and at the same time take the appropriate actions that are needed. And having again all of this in mind, this is the main reason why the meeting tomorrow is set up for the community. I really hope that a lot of people will show up and engage. And the purpose, the agenda behind that meeting is for us to come together and discuss these things that are on our mind, on our conscience in a productive way. What has happened in the past is a few people, they talk here, a few people talk there, other people, they talk at Tim Hortons, at Starbucks, and then things fizzle out. But we need to come together as a community. A part of the meeting tomorrow is going to be how to explain or how to talk to our children about what is happening. As parents, sometimes we downplay things. We don't understand the impact that it might have on children. And not everyone is qualified to have these discussions with their children. But it's an important component, an element to it. And we don't think for a minute that meeting on a Sunday for an hour or hour and a half is going to solve problems. Some people might come to the meeting tomorrow and say, well, people are just talking and nothing really happened. But once you start talking, the next thing after it is the action that comes with it. And you build step by step. I would hate for something to happen again and for the community to think if only we had done something in the past, if only we had taken the action in the past. So just to clarify once again, this is not to create fear, it is not to cause people to become paranoid. Like we said in the khutbah, we say like Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, and Ibrahim alayhi salam said before him, Hasbunallah wa ni'mal wakeel, that Allah is sufficient for us and He is the best of those who protect. And at the same time, we follow in the footsteps of the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, that we take the necessary precautions. It means that we have to educate each other, to be vigilant, to be aware of who comes into the masjid and who leaves the masjid, then so be it. It does not mean that we should become hostile or not invite people to the masjid, but we are cautious because of the world that we live in. So, on a final note, I wish